We need to remember we do have a 7 o'clock special meeting to vote on the matter regarding Howard'sTiger rags. So I will open this up for discussion. Mr. Meany, would you like to give us the start of anything that you may like to add to the conversation this evening? So, Mr. Meany, you have nothing to ask, unless we have additional questions? Do any members of council, well, let me start this way. The map that we have before us is the building known as Howard'sTiger rags. It is 2 properties located on Lincoln Way, I believe that is west, actually. The proposal that is in front of us is regarding a grant that we were able to obtain through the state on utilizing the property of Howard'sTiger rags as the purpose of the grant. This grant can go up to $225,000. It is set to be under demolition. We have an estimated cost of $175,000. And the proposal in front of us right now is to make an appropriation of those dollars so that the city can move forward with demolition. We do have, I believe the Rubens do seem to be in attendance. If we do have any discussion regarding them, as well as the mayor, the safety service director, the economic development director, and the community development director. The law director is around here, and then we will show that all 9 voting members of council are present, as well as the president of the council. I do not think I missed anyone. With that said, is there any discussion or questions this evening from members of council? All right, I'm going to start off. In my opinion on this matter, in regards to the letter that we have received from the Rubens, they have stated that they would be willing to submit to the city the funds in order to cover the cost of the teardown. Their belief would be in doing so, then they would be able to pull the grant down from the state for reimbursement of the cost associated. If you ask Mr. Rubin, is that an accurate description of your position? He has confirmed that that is an accurate description of his position. Are there any members of council who would like to speak to that as a possibility of resolution on this matter? Mr. Gray.
I'll just reiterate what I said before. I think it's something we need to move forward on as quickly as possible. We've got the money, let's take care of it, get it done.
Does anyone have a differing opinion or anything they would like to state for the record? Mr. Herndon.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. I don't see much of a difference in that whether the city funds the demo or the property owner pays for the demo and then gets reimbursed, because I'm assuming they can't get reimbursed directly from the land banks. The funds would still have to come to the city, and then we would be reimbursing the property owner, correct?
That would be my understanding.
So, if that's correct, I see no difference in the fact that the property owner is getting a free demo of their property that they intend to sell to a private developer for $120,000. I don't think this case is unique or different than any other demolition case that we have. When we fund demos through the CDBG program, which is a federal grant, we put a lien on the property. Across the street, we're getting money from the land bank, and I'm assuming that they're going to require that we put a lien on the property. I'm not going to vote for this if we don't put a lien on the property. I think that it's unfair to others who have been in similar boats for this property owner to basically get a subsidy in the form of the government paying for it and then making out on the back end. So unless there's a lien on the property, like we do in every other case, I'm not going to vote for it. And it doesn't mean that I'm against tearing the building down. I understand it's a safety concern. I just think that this case is not unique or special, that it requires the city to just throw out the window under rules or procedures that we've utilized in other cases. Thank you.
My arguments, I've thought about that as well, would be the one thing first, that the properties across the street are different in the sense that those properties were not proactively addressed and were taken to the point of imminent concern and safety for the well-being of our citizens, but literally the back walls blew out. So those buildings must be torn down quickly. This property, while it has struggled to remain in good condition, there was at least enough forward-thinking and proactive activity for the property owners to apply for or work with the city to apply for a grant at the state level. The reason I had proposed that we have them pay for the upfront cost is very similar to what Mr. Hurricane is saying. I do not agree that the city should have to come up with any money during this process, because if we would, then we'd essentially be providing a 60 or 90-day interest-free loan to the property owners, and they would not have to do anything. In this way, it is their money that is invested in the demolition or the upgrade in some cases to that property, and if a state grant allows for them to be reimbursed, and so be it. That is a program ran by the state, oversaw by that legislator and administration, not us. And if their program has it that it has to pass through the city, then so be it. That is where I stood. I agree that this probably came to council in a way that did not seem as if it was well rolled out. But that is in the past, and there's not much we can do about it now. I continue to stay in favor if the property owner is willing to pay for the demolition. I have no problem allowing them to pull the money down from the state. But Mr. Hurricane, I understand exactly where you're coming from. Mr. Lombardi.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. I will agree with Mr. Hurricane. I do not believe that taxpayer dollars should be going into demolition, and then on the back end, they're going to be able to sell the property for profit. I believe we need to assess this property, put a lien on it, and we need to reimburse the taxpayers as much as they can. Thank you.
I want to clarify something that, and the law director might be able to help me. Mr. Richard, if we put a lien on the property, so if we pay for the demolition, do not take anything from the property owner, and put a lien on the property, how does that impact the reimbursement of the grant from the state?
It does not.
So what I'm afraid of is the picture that we end up painting is we tear down the property, we put a $175,000 lien on the property owner, we get reimbursed by the state, and then still make the property owner pay us $175,000. So we paid $175,000 and ended up with $350,000 in repayment. And that seems to me like a gross overreach of government and a misuse of our authority and taking advantage of property owners within the city. When we double our money on citizens who are just trying to do the right thing. That is why I cannot be in favor of that proposal. Mr. Bjorn.
Thank you. I am also with Mr. Hurricane and Mr. Lombardi. I can't vote on this as it is. I understand this business owner has been a part of the community, benefited the community, and at one of our meetings, someone said something about a defect in the building which caused this. I understand all that, but I would propose we meet somewhere in the middle. We have every right to do this up to the full amount. I've reached out to the Board of Development, Mr. Maley's reached out to the Board of Development. We're allowed to do this. So even if they put the money up front, okay, and we reimburse them, there's still nothing preventing us from assessing the property for the full amount. So my proposal is we meet somewhere in the middle, we don't assess the full amount, then if he sells the property, there could still be some profit gained for it by the landowner. That's what this grant is for. It's clear as day if you actually read through the grant that we can assess this. We can use that money to pay for other demos. We just had 2 other buildings have issues downtown. I think, you know, I get both sides, but I propose we meet somewhere in the middle.
reimbursing us 100% for the cost of this demolition, why should we as a city benefit from that? Why should we get money from that purpose, in terms of a lien? I don't understand why we would want to increase our revenue when it didn't cost us anything. And again, I want to make clear, these are not City of Massillon taxpayer dollars being used. It's state grant money. Origin may have been state income taxes, maybe not. State earns money in a lot of different ways. So I'm for moving forward and getting this done. I don't see why the city should have any economic benefit from, even though we can, but why should we? It's not costing us anything. Let's just get it torn down.
Howard Smith?
Yes, I look at Tiger Rags, you know, and it's been a staple downtown, and the owners have been there for like 40-some years, they said. And they actually put a lot of money into trying to save it, $45,000. I would think after 40 years, I mean, if you subtract, you know, what they're selling it for, what, $120,000, and they put $45,000 in plus owning for 40 years, I mean, that's a profit of, you know, $70,000, $80,000 that they'll make in capital gains. You know, and they still have a business downtown, and our downtown businesses have been hurt. Being that if we had to put the money up and do the demolition, I would have no problem assessing his property. If he is putting the money up, and we are just a pass-through, and it is no burden on us, then I have no problem voting yes, him paying for the demolition, and we just pass through the grant money, because it's not, it may be overall tax, but it's a grant. It's just like if you got a scholarship and someone else did. Well, you know, that's just the way it is. He applied, he went through the steps, you know, we need to get it torn down, and I'm a yes, and I'm okay with not assessing his property, since he's coming up with the money in front. Thank you.
Councilman Snead.
Thank you. I guess my concern would be, I've spoken to various business owners and owners of property, buildings in Massillon. Maybe somebody from the administration can answer. My question would be, in fairness, if you have a building owner who takes the appropriate steps to try and keep the building for a set amount of years, and you have another property owner who does the same thing, but we only have enough grant money to accommodate for one of them, how do you choose that degree of fairness if they both, what's the procedure here that chooses the fairness of who gets what?
Good evening, Mr. Lewis, members of council. Every so often there's opportunities from the state. This came from the state of Ohio. And there were opportunities to apply for these dollars. I want to commend Mr. Maley, who worked with the Rubens, because there were only three people, cities, that were able to receive these dollars. That's a big deal, and I think council is missing that big deal. We could be the fourth one in line and not received anything for this. So it's a big deal that Mr. Maley was able to work with Mr. Rubin to get these funds. So that is a win for our city, okay? So I want you to look at it in just a little bit of a different light. We also had members of the state legislature helping us with this. So you all don't get to know all behind the scenes things that are going on, but we work with our state legislators to help us accomplish these goals. We were second in line. We were able to get the funds. And, you know, it's up to council on what you want to do. But we do have a couple things to take into account. Number one, Mr. Rubin is a long-standing business owner in the city of Massillon, okay? Number two, we don't have to pay this money back. Yes, you can assess his taxes, but is that pro-business? Just asking you, is that pro-business? For someone who has stayed in Massillon for all these years and brought how many people from all over the state of Ohio into his businesses? That's significant. And we have to partner with everybody. So, you know, there's two ways to look at this. Which way is right, that's going to be up to all of you. But I just want you to know that had we not been aggressive on going after these dollars, we wouldn't even be having this conversation tonight. Thank you.
I guess that doesn't quite answer what is the procedure if you have two equal applicants.
So I,
Who
maybe
gets-
you
who
missed
gets
the point
grant?
where you have to rush to get your application in. If you don't get it in, it was first come, first served. If you don't get it in, you don't get to be even looked at.
So it's
Mr.
first
Sneed.
come, first served, so if two people don't apply at the same time.
We got it, we applied second. So we were able, and we weren't sure how much money we were even going to receive. We're very lucky to receive the amount that we received. And this was to help a local business, long-standing local business. Now, other people are using it different ways, and that's their choice as well. But you all get to decide how this ends. But, you know, we wouldn't even be having this conversation had Mr. Mealy and Mr. Rubin been able to appropriate or access the application as quickly and as efficiently as they did.
Mr. Speaking, if maybe I can assess that, in my experience on council, a situation such as what you have spoken of could exist, usually the money is divided in some way between the two businesses or the two applicants.
But I guess, did you hear what like, the state of Ohio, every so often has programs. We have the NIP program, you know, we had that program that came through the state. And we worked, I think we took down 60 homes in the city of Massillon. And that was a first come, first served basis too. We had to hurry up, you had to take title, and that takes a long time to get title, to get the buildings down. So when the state provides you with a new program, you have to be ready to go get those funds. We were ready to go get those funds to help out a local business. But again, you can look at it both ways.
Ms. Kramer?
Thank you. Okay, let's just get this all out there. Thank you for expanding on, you know, what goes behind the scenes that we have no knowledge of. I need to know, did Mr. Maley, I know this building has been in poor condition for some time now. So when we were notified that there's money out there that we're going to apply, we were the second one to submit. Mr. Maley, were you aware of this building, and did you apply for this building? Did you reach out to the Rubens? I want to get a better understanding of who did what, or did we come upon this money's out there, and okay, who needs the money?
No.
And this was the project in need, so that was the path we chose to go.
The property was in poor disrepair, okay? So I had a conversation with Mr. Rubin and said, Mr. Rubin, do you have the funds to do this? You know, we've got to get this down. And the answer was no. And then all of a sudden this falls into our lap, that this new program from the state of Ohio, this was a perfect opportunity. And we worked so hard to get it, and it was months. They first said it was going to be 3 months, 4 months, and we would know. It was months later that we knew that we received it.
So we reached out to the Rubens after your discussion, asking him if he had the funds to demolish this building.
Right.
And based on his answer, then this came upon, the money, the
Yes.
grant, and Mr. Maley went through the process.
Very quickly, because
To apply.
it is very, like I said, it's very competitive, and do you know it's for our area, Stark County. So how many other places want to take down buildings? There's a lot. And so that's why I don't think you understand the whole gist of how important it is for David to be able to access these funds.
Okay, just lesson learned, have we evaluated all of our buildings in our downtown area?
We have,
Because
we have.
based on code enforcement, we have a list of those buildings that are going to be ranked based on their conditions, because of where we find ourselves today. This isn't going to be the only building, we have 2 more buildings and what other buildings are going to be in need of demolition or poor condition in the very near future? And where are those funds coming from? Who's going to pay for those?
I would just say, in the interest of time, let's keep it to Howard'sTiger.
You
We
and
have
Adam.
8 minutes. 7.
Okay, so
The Tiger Rag building, 129, was the building in question. It had issues, obviously, for many years. There were supports on the top floor. The building was vacant. It was basically being held together at the top floor. Code
How many years?
I'm sure it's been vacant for probably at least 10 years. That's not accurate. Okay. And so a few years ago, they did do some supports on the upstairs upper floors. We noticed that the building there was cracks between the buildings. We noticed that they were getting wider. That's why we went back in. We put orders on the building to be demoed. The Rubens appealed the demolition order, came back with a plan for just temporarily putting it as far as independent demolition with the assistance of Steve Kuhn from construction, and that's where you see the braces and stuff that were put up. The board agreed to that plan and let the building be non-demoed as far as for a temporary period while we apply for the funding that we're discussing here tonight from the state. And also give the Rubens an opportunity to make it through at least till the end of that calendar year.
So why would you repeal the demolition orders?
We didn't repeal them, we put them on hold temporarily. Well,
If we didn't know the money was available, and if the building was in poor condition, why would the board grant the delay of the demolition if orders were given to demolish that building?
Because they did put supports up to make sure the building wasn't going to fall down.
But it was still in poor condition, we just delayed. I guess I'm just, in my mind, I'm trying to understand.
So these funds, when all this was happening, these funds, after I had the conversation with, then we found out about these funds. It was very shortly after we found out about these funds. And so then it was supposed to be a much faster timeline. And we really, when should we have had that building, that building down?
We were expecting a decision from the state in May. Unfortunately, it got delayed, and it didn't come till September.
It was really fast, Joe, that, we found out about these funds, and they, stabilized the building, so we could apply for the funds, we got the funds. So there's a lot of things we try to do to help people, as long as it's safe. Safety comes first.
Mr. Gray.
Just one question, I think I know the answer, but I just want it on the record. If we had another long-standing business owner come forward and had a situation like this, would we not have done the same thing for them? And would we not do the same thing for them in the future if we had that possibility? I know the state funds are not there every year, but it's not like we're doing this for just because of who this business person is. We do it for anybody in our city. Thank you.
As we get ready to go ahead and close this, and we go to our 7 o'clock and we can continue. I guess my closing comments will be, I'll continue to stand on the principle of I would like to see resolution to this, but I refuse to get on board with anything that involves the city making a financial gain at the arrest of one of our long-term businesses and property owners in this city. I think that's unethical and immoral.
I would just like to say that there's not, excuse me,
No,
there's not going to be.
There's no meeting. You have to wait so you can start at 7 o'clock. We have a schedule. I'm sorry.